Bad Influence, the dark side of kidfluencing. We are going to break down episode by episode and compare the behaviors and manipulation tactics to different cult models. This whole docuseries was way more culty than I had even anticipated. I didn't know anything about this story or Piper Rockelle before I watched the docuseries, but even in the opening sequence of the first episode, one of the moms says that it was like a very cult-like atmosphere. So they set the tone in this docuseries from the very beginning to compare this story to cults and undue influence and coercive control. This docuseries was also way more dark and sad and scary than I anticipated it to be. So warnings for child SA. I'm not going to be talking about that in depth because honestly, I cannot do it, but I'm going to focus on how cults often lead to that. The beginning of the first episode really focuses on how Piper got into influencing and how kidfluencing got really big on YouTube and TikTok to begin with. I think they did a really good job showing why something like this is appealing, because people don't just join destructive cults or groups or situations that are going to be harmful to them. They join something that is very appealing and says that it's going to help them and is going to change their life. And when you talk about things like kidfluencing and the amount of money that these kids were making from these videos on social media, it was extremely like a very life-changing opportunity. I think we see most of the cult red flags for Tiffany come into play when Tiffany and Piper move to LA and she connects with Hunter, who is a 19 or 20-year-old boy at the time, and he begins filming with them and editing their videos and working with them a lot. Tiffany starts a relationship with Hunter secretly behind the scenes, and kids in their late teens, early 20s are especially vulnerable to cults and coercive control, manipulation, and harmful DV relationships. To me, this was an intentional targeting of someone that Tiffany knew that she could use and control, and I see Hunter as one of Tiffany's first victims besides her own daughter, Piper. I also thought it was interesting how Tiffany roped in Piper's first couple of friends and her cousins into filming with them by including them in videos and showing the kid and their parents, look at how many views they're getting, they're so popular, this is amazing, they could really make a lot of money off of this if you want to. I kind of saw that as a form of love bombing by really praising them for being in videos that did really well and telling them oh, you could be famous too, you could make a lot of money, do this with us. Then of course Tiffany would show these parents and these other children how to start their own channels and their own social media accounts, but maintained control of them because she was the one who knew how to access them, how to grow them, and she was the one that was featuring them in Piper's videos that were already doing well, etc. Things really took a turn when Tiffany and a couple other moms bought a bigger house in the Hollywood Hills and started developing the squad and inviting other kidfluencers in to have their own channels, but also collaborate with Piper and with the other girls to do a ton of content. At this time, Hunter started filming a lot of the videos, scripting a lot of them, and they had these kids working extensive hours, 10, 12, 15 plus hour days. The kids were up all hours of the night, sometimes till 1 or 2 a.m. filming. And any other kidfluencers that joined the squad or would film at the house had to hand over the logins to their accounts to Tiffany and Hunter. So you had to give something up of yourself to be part of this squad in exchange for hopefully more exposure and more money. Daniela Mestenik-Young, who is a scholar of cults and also was raised in the Children of God cult, has said many times in her educational videos and content that cults are almost always end in the exploitation of labor. And you could see with this controlling everyone's accounts and making these kids literally work long-hour jobs that Tiffany was maintaining control and benefiting off of the labor of a lot of these children. So she wasn't only working her own daughter like a horse, but she started taking management fees and controlling the accounts of these other kids. And many of the kids also worked for free in the videos before they got their own accounts going. They never got paid for the videos that they were in that were on Piper's channel. Another really culty thing that happens with working such long hours and late into the night is sleep deprivation. Kids need a lot of sleep. And if they're working such long hours every day and not going to bed until 2 a.m. and then getting up early in the morning to start all over again, it makes it easier to control a person. You're a little bit delusional, you're sleepy, you're more susceptible to undue influence. I also thought it was interesting that like oftentimes cult leaders have weird quirks that they like integrate into their cults that have nothing to do with anything. Like I think about Keith Raniere and his volleyball obsession and how he made people play volleyball games in the middle of the night, and it was crazy. Well, Tiffany's cult leader quirk is that she was obsessed with cats and rescuing cats and accumulating as many cats as possible. And she would go rescue these cats and bring them to this house that they would film in. And early on, they said in this docuseries that she had 36 cats and then eventually accumulated over 60 cats in this house. And sometimes the garbage people would not take their trash can because it would be so full and weighed down with dirty cat litter. And as a result of this, she was obsessed with cleaning and would make them clean and bleach the house every single day. So the kids would not only be staying up working late till 1 or 2 in the morning, they would then have to immediately after filming clean and bleach the house. And one of the moms said a couple of times she would find the girls like asleep on the stairs where they were like scrubbing and bleaching. The end of this episode really took a turn into more of the inappropriate themes and kind of dropped a bomb leading into the second episode. But it started becoming apparent that after the kids all started making a lot of money on their accounts, there was a lot more pressure on the children and these families to do things that pushed their boundaries a little bit more in order to keep up with the demand and keep up with the ridiculous life-changing amounts of money they were making. And apparently, allegedly, when the parents were not around, Tiffany grew more and more inappropriate with these children and the things that she said and did and ways that she behaved around them. Because of this behavior, we see the first parent getting extremely uncomfortable with how things are going with the squad and the filming with Tiffany in particular, and takes her daughter and wants out of the deal, out of the situation, wants to leave and do things on their own. And I think we see one of the more obvious characteristics of a cult in this situation because immediately this parent faced Tiffany's wrath. She got a lot of angry text messages, and everybody else in the squad, in the house, all the kids and parents were forced to completely cut off this mother and child and disconnect from them. Cult leaders never want you speaking to ex-members because then you can listen to their perspective, their story, get a different side of things. It's a form of information control and emotional control and behavior control, because then other people get scared that if they act out of line, this same thing will happen to them, which is what a lot of the people in this docuseries that were describing the situation said. Come back for part 2 because in episode 2, we have a lot more of these direct comparisons, and we can look at the BITE model and Daniela Mestenik-Young's 10 characteristics of a cult and some cult definitions given to us by Dr. Janja Lalich that we can directly compare and contrast these behaviors to.